in um, in these two pieces, or sorry, in this particular piece, the chanter. Then we're going to go on to figure ground, positive, and negative space. So figure is the thing that you are looking at, and then ground is background. It's short for background. Positive and negative space, whatever sort of like, I'm going to go back to this example. Whatever's carved out, if that makes sense, that is the negative space. The figure, the piece, the artwork is the positive. So all these dark areas around here, and they're not necessarily dark areas, but they're areas of space around the piece are going to be the negative space. This particular piece in the book, 4.14, the Aztec feathers, that's showing you a shield that is got two equal figure ground designs, but you can only see one at a time, basically. Okay, Matisse, another one. This is a really nice organic, this is more of a geometric example, again, right angles. Organic, leaf-like. Organic means kind of things that are grown. Figure-ground relationship where there's some different things happening here, but in this particular one, you can really see that the negative space almost becomes the figure, if that makes sense. This is cut out, but it's playing with that figure-ground conception. Okay, so we talked about this a little bit. The positive shape, ground is a negative shape. Implied shapes, I'm going to go over this kind of quickly because we got to get through this last segment. Implied shapes are used quite often by Renaissance artists. In this particular piece, Raphael's The Madonna, the Meadows, 1505. There's a triangle here. There is quite a bit of weight to geometry used in the artwork of the Renaissance. Again, Renaissance means rebirth of the Greek and Roman era. And the Trinity here makes sense. There are 3 points of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit within Christian work. So, and there's 3 figures. But you can see like the toes are basically the edges of the triangle and her head. Light, I'm going to show you 2 different examples of light. Light is used in within two-dimensional work, and it's also used as artwork. Doug Wheeler, this is an old image, but I don't feel like the newer one is as good of an example, so I left it. So this artist uses light to play with the idea of space and to play with the idea of how we perceive things, perception. Doug Wheeler. This is James Turrell. I got this online, but I've been in many of these pieces. They're really wonderful. Now, this color and this color are the same. We have a little bit of bleeding here, or sunset, in this particular piece. This complementary is popping, and I think there's some pollution into this oval. But basically, if you look at these top 2 colors, they're the same, but look how they shift as the light changes. He has fluorescent lights and other types of lights here coming out of this area, and they're reflecting onto the ceiling, and this is sky. So it's a beautiful piece. He sometimes just uses daylight in some of these. Some of them are controlled lighting, but he's using light, and James Turrell is the primary light and space artist. There are others. Doug Wheeler's one. Okay, so actual light, that's what we just talked about with James Turrell. An illusionistic light. So it's created by the artist, usually to show values, which we're going to get into, relative light and darkness. It's also shading and modeling. Chiaroscuro is a word you're really going to need to know. Value is a word you're going to really need to know. Hatching and cross-hatching, we don't use that as much, but this is a good example. Stippling just means dots as opposed to lines. These are lines. Cross-hatching. See how there's very little cross-hatching? There's actually none right there. A light amount here, so that's a lighter area. Perhaps there's light shining on her head here, and that there is shadow here, so there's heavier cross-hatching, meaning darkness or a value shift or shading. Okay? On photographs, you see this quite easily in a black and white photograph. The light source is coming from over here, obviously. And then all the shadow that's happening here, that's the darkest value, that's the darkest dark, that's the lightest light, and there's some medium tones in here. Again, Alfred Stieglitz, a black and white photograph. This is very easy to see, black and white, values shifting from lightest light to darkest dark. Another one from Ansel Adams.